Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Sexploration, the show that brings you honest, informative, and shame free conversations about sex. I am your host Sakshi, तो चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं आज के टॉपिक से पेरेंट्स इन सेक्स रिलेटेड कॉन्वर्सेशंस. So, in the perfect world, parents talks openly to their kids about sex, and also young people will turn up to their parents with any questions they have about this stuff. But we clearly know that's really not a case in India, जो कि बहुत गलत बात है. Ideally, as we say, our parents are our first friends, so they should talk to you about anything to everything, answer you every question, even if it is about sex or relationships. Moreover, if you have any kind of question or problem or ever need any advice, they should always be the first people you want to add. But obviously, I have so many friends who never talked about sex with their parents. I understand that for a lot of families, talking about this topic involves so much discomfort and it feels so extremely taboo as a result that these conversations just never happened. Even if this happens in many homes, so there is this idea that the conversation just has to be had once. The talk where parents awkwardly bring it up with teenage kids and tell them that sex is wrong, and then there's never any more talk about it. In fact, I'm very curious, have you ever talked about sex with your parents? If you are a parent, have you ever educated your children about sex? Tell me in the comments, please. Okay, but back to what I was saying. Literally, parents should talk to their children about sex, not just once but throughout. It's never too early to start, and it's not a one time conversation. For example, as a child learns to talk, parents should teach scientifically accurate names of genitals to their small child, just like we do with other body parts. We teach them other body parts like stomach, knees, ankles. So, why do we teach them silly words like nunu and chuchu for their genitals? These are also just parts of the body, penis and vulva. This is just correct names for those parts. If we describe genitals with those shamefully coined names instead of these scientifically accurate words, then we create a sense of shame about our bodies in the minds of children right from early childhood. With these ways, kids begin to interpret right from the time they are babies that these body parts have something embarrassing about them. Just think about how that's going to impact the young person's perspective on their body and sexuality right from their infancy. So, for starters, please teach kids scientifically accurate words like penis and vulva, just like we teach them the other body parts. Moreover, it will be easy for you to further explain them what a good touch and bad touch is. And this becomes more important because at this time a child starts interacting with others like going to school, play, and making new friends. Developing an understanding of consent around all actions from a very young age and continuously knowing the importance of consent throughout their upbringing is so incredibly important and valuable. Kids should learn that consent matters and the consent of other people matters too. As kids begin to get curious about how life works and how the body works, parents should calmly answer the inevitable questions that will arise about where babies come from. Explaining the science instead of making up a story is far better approach. This conversation can be age appropriate and yet factually correct. Instead of telling the biological truth completely and accurately, most people start making creative stories like a bird left them outside the house, or they met a magician in the hospital, or either it's a God gift. Even if your child asks these questions, you can simply explain to them that the child comes from the mother's body. As the child gradually becomes more mature, whenever this topic comes up, you can explain more with time. For example, you could use a simple educational illustration from a book or online that showcases how a sperm is fertilized by an egg or how a fetus develops in a womb. When children approach their preteen years, then parents have to tell their kids about puberty and changes in their body like hormones, acne, stuff like menstruation or periods. All this should be talked about, and personally, my opinion is that young people should be taught all of these things together and learn about all the bodies irrespective of gender rather than having a separate talk with girls and separate talk with boys. And ideally, at this point in the preteen year, parents should also begin discussing portrayals of sex and sexuality in media before the kid ends up stumbling upon porn video without any context to turn to. Porn is so widely present on the internet that around 50% of children with internet access end up finding porn, whether deliberately or by accident, by the time they are just 10 years old. Isn't it scary? So, now is the time we need to talk to our kids about porn. Moreover, the extremely misogynistic porn should not be their sex education, and they should understand that is a form of adult entertainment and not necessarily a reflection of what real life sex is like. The absence of sex education in school or conversations at home, the porn ended up as the first reference to many people in this internet era. Furthermore, teenagers should explain to them the risks of sex and also about contraception and protection. Sex can sometimes lead to accidental pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. But instead of scaring and shaming them, it should be about educating them so they can make a safe and informed decision in their lives. Explain what can be done to reduce risks. For example, condoms must be explained from the science side. When it comes to talking to kids about sex, it's really not just a single conversation that needs to be had. Such conversation should keep happening as per the age of the child. The conversations can start when the child is a toddler and progresses all the way through adulthood. Talking about it often when the opportunity arises in a manner that feels calm and normal. As a family, you will all become more comfortable while speaking about this stuff. Think about it. While teenagers have questions about sex, sexuality, relationships, and about body, if instead of releasing it to some random friend or some random website, we can easily approach our parents safely and honestly without fearing punishment and without telling nonsense instead of facts. See how much better it would be. So, right, if you are a teenager or young adult and you and your parents have never talked about sex, so please start talking to each other about it by explaining it's never too early to start, but it's also never too late. According to the research, kids and teens who can talk to their parents or caregivers regularly and openly about sex and relationships, they are more likely to have delay sex and less likely to take risks with your own or another person's health and safety. Moreover, they are also more likely to have better mental health. It becomes easy to navigate your own sexual health as a young person if you have the support of your family and are able to talk to them about this stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. That's it for today's episode. I'll meet you guys in the next episode.